With the semester coming to an end, the only portion of the vertebrates that we'll get to talk about will be fish. Characteristics that fish have include that they're aquatic and they're vertebrates. They have scales for protection. They have fins that are used for movement. They have gills used for exchanging gases. They have two-chambered hearts. They are cold-blooded or exothermic, so they tend to live in a water temperature that suits their needs. They have a good sense of sight and smell, and they have a lateral line system that allows them to detect vibrations, and we'll talk more about that in a few slides. So when it comes to feeding, fish eat pretty much everything depending on the fish. Some fish are herbivores, some are carnivores, some are parasites, some are filter feeders, and some are detritus feeders. They have a mouth, esophagus, stomach, intestines, and anus. They have a liver, which is a big step in the right direction, and a pancreas, another big step in the right direction, both of which are used to help digestion. And then their stomach has these finger-like pouches called pyloric ceca, which secrete digestive enzymes and absorb nutrients from the digested food. Now, our stomach secretes digestive enzyme in these pyloric ceca, but they are not able to absorb the nutrients. That all takes place in our in our small intestine. But in fish, we see that absorption of nutrients starting in the stomach. And you'll see that when we dissect the shark. Respiration. So most fish exchange gases using the gills that are located on either side of their pharynx. The gills are made up of feathery, thread-like structures called filaments. Each filament contains a network of fine capillaries. This is where the gas is going to exchange from the blood to the surrounding water. So those capillaries have blood that have either a lot of carbon dioxide that will diffuse out or not a lot of oxygen, which will then diffuse from the water into the blood. Fish pull oxygen-rich water over in through their mouth and then kind of push it out over their gill filament. And by doing so, the oxygen will diffuse into the blood, and the carbon dioxide will diffuse out into the water. Then that oxygen poor water gets pushed out through the openings in the side of their pharynx. So, circulation of blood. Fish have a closed circulatory system with a heart that's going to pump the blood to the gills, and then from the gills to the rest of the body and back to the heart. So here we have in this direction, there is the two-chambered heart, and it's going to pump blood out here where it's going to go to the gills. The gills is going to allow for the gas exchange where it picks up oxygen. So the blood will then leave and it will go to the rest of the body where gas will exchange. So oxygen goes into the cells for cellular respiration, and carbon dioxide will come out of the cells for cellular respiration, and then it'll go back through the veins back to the heart so that it can be pumped back to the gills to get more oxygen. So excretion. Some of the waste that's produced will diffuse through the gills into the surrounding water. Some of the waste can't do that, so it'll be removed by the kidneys. And the purpose of the kidney is to filter the blood. It'll filter the waste out of the blood. Fish in saltwater tend to lose water by osmosis. So to solve this problem, the kidneys of marine fish typically concentrate the waste and return as much water back to the body as possible so that the fish does not become dehydrated. Fish have a very well-developed nervous system. They have an organized brain, which has several parts. You can see that in the picture in the upper right-hand corner. Two lobes of the cerebrum are found, and they are used to primarily process the sense of smell, which we have our cerebrum that processes more than just smell. The cerebellum coordinates body movement. That's exactly what the cerebellum in your body does. And then the medulla oblongata controls functioning of many internal organs, just like yours does as well. When it comes to the nervous system of fish, they have very highly developed sense organs. They have very well developed eyes and color vision that is at least as good as humans, if not better. They have chemoreceptors that allow for extraordinary senses of taste and smell. And now we're going to talk about that lateral line system. So most fish can detect gentle currents and vibrations in the water. So they have these sensitive receptors that form this line down the side of them. And those receptors sense that gentle current or vibration. And the fish use that information to sense the motion of other fish that could either be predator or prey that are swimming nearby. When it comes to movement, fish move by alternately contracting paired muscles on either side of the backbone. This creates a series of S-shaped curves that move down the fish's body. As each curve travels from the head towards the tail fin, it creates a backward force on the surrounding water that propels the fish forward. The fins of the fish are also used almost like the way that airplanes use stabilizers, flaps, and rudders to keep on course and adjust direction. Their streamlined bodies allow the fish to reduce the amount of drag so that they can go through the water as quickly as possible. Fish have an issue where they should, in theory, sink. Because their body tissue is more dense than the water they swim in, they should sink. However, many bony fish have an internal gas-filled organ called a swim bladder that adjusts their buoyancy. The swim bladder lies just beneath the backbone, and what it does, it allows them to move vertically through the water. When it comes to the reproduction in fish, there are 3 different ways that fish can reproduce. Fish whose eggs hatch outside of the mother's body is known as oviparous, so the egg is outside. In oviviviparous species, the eggs stay in the mother's body after internal fertilization. The young get all the nutrients from the egg and then are born alive, just like the young of most animals, but they are not feeding off of mom. They are literally just feeding off of the nutrients that are found in the egg. Then there's viviparous animals, and these are embryos that stay in the mother's body after internal fertilization, but the embryos obtain the substances they need from mom, not from the material in the egg. This is where we think of like an umbilical cord connecting mom to the fetus. So let's talk about classes of fish, man. So the first class we're going to talk about is the class Agnatha. These are jawless fish. They're living fossils. They're very eel-like. They have no true teeth, nor do they have a jaw. Their skeletons are made up of fibers and cartilage. There's 2 groups. One is lamprey. They're filter feeders as larvae, and they're parasites as adults. And then there's hagfish. They're detritivores, so they feed on that dead, decaying matter. They also secrete an incredible amount of slime. They have 6 hearts, and they possess an open circulatory system. They also regularly tie themselves in knots. All right, the class of chondriichthyes. These are cartilaginous fish. Their skeletons are made up of cartilage. They have tooth-like scales covering their skin. It feels almost like sandpaper, and you'll feel that when we do the shark dissection. They have a ventral mouth, and the most common examples of these cartilaginous fish are sharks, rays, and skates. And then there's the osteophytes. These are the bony fish. Their skeleton is made up of bones. They have dermal scales embedded into their skin. They have gills that are covered with an operculum, that's a flap. And this is typically what you think of when you think of fish: the trout, the bass, the rockfish, the eel, the salmon, the tuna, the lungfish, grouper, all those kinds of fish. They're all bony fish.